Sometimes I really miss Leanne. This is one of those times. Like this, I would have handed like, Leanne, please, this is your interview. But I've got to do it, and it's just a good thing that, I have a lot of melanin, because I'd be blushing like you won't believe right now. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, it's the annual Daredevil Run. And that will get underway for the 10th time tomorrow afternoon from Zoo Lake in Johannesburg, with the almost naked men gearing up to start the race at 3 p.m. and then returning at 6 p.m. During peak hour traffic. Now, this exciting awareness campaign sees thousands of men from across the country take to the streets dressed only in swimming costumes during afternoon peak hour traffic, all in the name of raising awareness about prostate cancer. So for more on this run, we're joined by David Lucas, who's a prostate cancer survivor. Andrew Oberholzer is the CEO of the Prostate Cancer Foundation, and Zenzile Mogoba is the communications manager at Hollard Group. Thanks so much to all of you for coming through.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Women may think this is like all for them, and finally something for us in peak hour traffic, but not. It's actually for a cause, a good and important cause. Tell us how this idea came about.
So there was a couple of guys who dared each other to run through the streets around Jan Smuts in peak hour in a speedo. And the event grew, and eventually they decided to involve some men's health awareness about prostate cancer and testicular cancer, and that's kind of how it started. So the thing with health is, if you make it fun for men, they're far more likely to get involved, and it creates an opportunity to talk about these two very important diseases.
So let's talk about it in terms of statistics to begin with. What are the stats around prostate cancer in South Africa?
So it's a big challenge, because black guys are 60% more at risk than white guys. So about 1 in 4 to 1 in 6 black guys can expect to get prostate cancer, and about 1 in 8 white guys will get prostate cancer. So it's very high. The good news is that if it's caught early, it can be treated successfully and in fact cured. So after 5 years, about 98% of guys will still be alive if it's caught early. However, if it's already spread or metastasized, is what we call it, then unfortunately after 5 years, only about 30% of men will still be alive.
Well, you saw the lights go out there. Trust me, it's not us, it's load shedding. It's nothing to do with the situation in the studio at the moment. So, David, you're a survivor. When were you diagnosed? And how have you dealt with the diagnosis and also your road to recovery?
Right, thank you. But again, I'm going to first stand up and let the guys see what we've got. Cancer, I won't kick it in the butt. Yes, I've had this journey. I call it a journey of hope. For me, it was actually the best thing that could happen to me. Knowing that I got myself tested early. Early detection is the message I keep on spreading. But it is a situation where I now know where I'm going to. In my life, I've made certain decisions. I'm unemployed, but I know that I'm going to actually buy a motorhome and travel this country and tell the brave story of so many people that we don't hear. Cancer is probably God's gift to a survivor, because you have time to make right with God, your family, with whoever knows you. The scenario that we had yesterday, 3 young kids, the area where I live, 3 young kids were killed tragically. 7 other people were killed. It happens in a wink of an eye. I've had the opportunity to look at what I'm going. However, message I want to keep on saying to you, man, over the age of 40, if you don't have yourself tested, it might not happen. You might have a family member or your family member standing around next to an open grave. And that is what we're trying to avoid. And I want to take my hat off for a company like Hollard that are paying it forward. That paying it forward and doing something. Prostate Foundation, Cancer, which I am a part of as a volunteer, because I decided I'm going to pay it forward to speak to men. I'm a volunteer. I'm the CEO. I'm also, in fact, part of Keurboom Home. I'm also the chairperson of the Northern Business Unit. There is so much that you can go out there and speak to people so that you know what is happening. Men think that cowboys don't have to cry. Cowboys can cry. And maybe it even spreads over to the fact about what's happening with domestic violence and women abuse. Men need to speak out. Men need to see how they feel. And there's nothing wrong with crying. I believe early detection has saved life, and it will save life.
And we know that it's always very difficult with men to get them to seek medical attention for anything, let alone something that they would associate so keenly with their manhood and everything that goes with that. So how easy or how difficult has this journey been, Andrew?
So the important thing for men to understand is that with prostate cancer, unfortunately, there's generally no symptoms in the early stages. So if you're not going for testing regularly, that cancer can progress, become metastatic, and then it's not going to be curable. So the message for men is, from the age of 40, for all black guys or anybody with a history of breast or prostate cancer in the family, start checking then. And it's two simple tests. And then from 45 for all other men, it's a PSA blood test. That doesn't mean that you have cancer if your test comes back high. It just gives us an indication that something's wrong with the prostate and we need to investigate further. And then that test is not 100% reliable, so we still recommend what we call a digital rectal examination. That's the finger that men are so scared of. In fact, it's only about 20 seconds of minor discomfort, and that just gives us a double check in terms of checking the prostate for any lumps or bumps or hardness. If it's caught in the early stages, chances are you'll get referred to a urologist. That's this medical specialist that deals with our man parts. And then they will do what's called a biopsy, where they actually put needles into the prostate, take tissue samples out, analyze them under a microscope, and are able to then tell or stage the cancer, and they give it what's called a Gleason score, and that will then determine what treatment options are available to you.
Zenzile, Hollard's affiliation with this event, talk to us about that. Why did you decide to get involved?
So as an organization, our purpose is to enable and create opportunities for people to secure a better future, and we're all about partnerships. So that's why we thought it's important for us to get involved in this. 1 in 4 men, 1 in 4 black men particularly, is a very sobering statistic. There's 4 of us on stage. If we were all men, 1 of us would be at risk. It's that close to home for us. So we want more men to actually be around to take care of their families. And for us, we say it's actually not an individual disease. Cancer is a family disease. You know, families are affected by this. So we understand the impact that that has on communities and families and society at large. So we wanted to get involved, play a role in this, and actually provide the space for men to take part. So I like the question that you asked, Andrew, in terms of what more can be done. How do we get men involved for them to be a part of this? Women play a big part of that, which is why for me as a married woman and a mother of boys, I'm very passionate about this, because I don't want my husband or my boys having to go through this. We want to make it as normal for men and young boys to get tested at an early age and to actually normalize it. Let's talk about the private parts that men don't want to talk about. Let's actually demystify it. And that's why the Speedo, let's not make it a taboo subject, but bring it out into the open, make light of it. And as you notice, it's only the men wearing the Speedos.
Yeah.
Ladies are not involved.
We're quite happy about that for
absolutely.
a change.
We call ourselves the Daredevil Angels, and we're fully clothed for a change, right? And it's the men that are actually now exposed, because they need to own their own health and they need to take charge of what's happening with their bodies.
So just coming back to what David was saying, he said, grateful to Hollard for coming on board and paying it forward. But what are you seeking to gain? How are you looking to benefit in one way or another as a company, as an organization, from being associated with this event?
So we want to benefit in a different way, right? I mentioned the partnerships that we have. So through people participating in the Daredevil Run, in the last 5 years, we've actually managed to raise 2.6 million rand, and that money actually gets donated to cancer and the Prostate Cancer Foundation. So the entry is 160 rand. 100 rand of that actually goes towards the donation to PCF and to cancer. 50 rand is for the Speedo and 10 rand is an admin fee. So a large part of the entry money actually goes towards donation. And for us, that's important because we want to enable research. People in rural communities actually don't have access to health facilities like what we do in Gauteng. So Cancer runs something that they call a man van, which is actually a caravan that goes around to communities that may not have access to medical facilities. And we're able to provide PSA testing, prostate-specific antigen testing, as Andrew mentioned, it might not mean that you have cancer, but it might give an indication of what's going on in the body. Now, people in rural areas don't necessarily have access to that, and sometimes it's even peri-urban areas that don't have access to that. So for us, we want people to actually have access to those types of things. Andrew also with PCF, they work with Tulani SABC, who is a prostate cancer survivor himself as well. And he's very passionate about sharing his story and very open, like David is, about sharing his experience as a prostate cancer survivor. So through those partnerships, we want to engage with people, make men more aware of what's happening with their bodies, and let's get it out into the open and save lives.
David, you spoke about what you'd like to do in the future, but there are so many other ways of, raising awareness. Why would you want to run in a Speedo through the streets of Johannesburg?
Well, firstly, just in what you were saying earlier, I must also say it is by chance that I was diagnosed, because I also was one of the naughty ones. Didn't go back to the doctor in 2000 up to 2008. 2011, I was diagnosed by chance. Blood's taken for totally for something else. But the awareness that is created by the Speedo, it gets people talking. You run that race, and I actually keep on having my survivor, because we get a special one, a special Speedo as well, not just the purple one. But when you would run there and you see people, women stopping hooting, but I know one thing, there's a good likelihood that she is going to go out there, speak to the husband and say, what are you doing about this? Yes, it's also a great fun event. And like I say, my journey is a journey of hope and fun. And you know what? Those men will have fun on that day. We enjoy it. I promise you, 62 years of age, if I can do it with this unchiseled body, I promise you the other guys can come in and have fun with us.
Are they chiseled bodies?
You're invited.
All shapes and
You
sizes
are
are
invited. Listen, this is obviously the only unchiseled one there. The others are all great.
And that's just as an aside. But Andrew, Zenzile mentions the fact about urban, peri-urban, and of course rural awareness campaigns. When you look at the attitude generally in rural areas as well, it's much more hardened. How have you found that particular journey in trying to spread the message?
So it is a problem, and men's health issues, particularly when it affects sexual function, is generally becomes a taboo subject. So it's important for men to understand that their sexual health is part of their overall health. And I talk about prostate cancer because it affects a man's sexual health. The prostate is one of the internal sexual organs. Men are very familiar with the external sexual organs, the penis and the testes. But the internal organs like the prostate and the seminal vesicles actually make up the fluid that the sperm travel in. So it's an education process, and for men to understand that their sexual health is very important. It is something that they need to get checked. They can speak to a doctor about it. And that is a challenge in the rural areas. It's also a challenge in terms of there's not always facilities to perform biopsies, and that's something that we're trying to work with government on. So we can't just do testing, pick up problems if we don't have facilities in place to actually do biopsies. Trying to get more urologists trained as well is another challenge. So men's health hasn't been a priority, unfortunately, in the public health sector, but we had a really great meeting a couple of weeks ago with Minister of Health and Prostate Cancer USA, and we're hoping that men's health will become more of a priority in the future, and also getting men to take ownership of their health as well. So the cowboys don't cry, and ignoring symptoms and ignoring the health checkups is a major problem. So we want men to actually take ownership and don't wait until things go wrong.
So as we wrap this up, can people still participate, sign up to participate? If so, how do they go about it? And also the funds that are raised, how do you actually disperse those?
So absolutely, men can still participate. The race is taking place tomorrow. They can actually come through to the Hollard offices and actually just pick up their race pack at the same time as well. So our office is at number 22 Oxford Road in Parktown. Men can come in, they can pay for their entry, they can also get their race pack as well, which will have a Speedo in. The great thing is we also have cancer there, so they can also get a prostate-specific antigen test at the same time as well, which is completely free. So we will be there at the Hollard offices until tomorrow, and then tomorrow we're going to be at Zoo Lake. So from 6 o'clock in the morning, they can come in, register, get their Speedos, and at 3 o'clock we get ready to hit the streets.
Speedos, one size fits all.
Well, all sizes are welcome. All sizes, all body shapes, everybody's
Catered
chiseled,
for,
not
catered
chiseled. A friend of mine said I have the body of a god, Buddha. You know, so all sizes are welcome, really. We don't
was a good one.
discriminate.
Well, thank you so much to all of you for
Thank
coming
you.
through. David Lucas, a prostate cancer survivor, Andrew Oberholzer is the CEO of the Prostate Cancer Foundation, and Zenzile Mogoba, who is the communications manager at Hollard Group, for discussing tomorrow afternoon's annual Daredevil Run. And I know you're going to be looking out for that.